Creative Space Education Day 1. Sometimes the time flies. I don't even know how long sometimes, but he's been in the music industry for 2.5 decades.
Around
maybe?
3, yeah.
Yeah, so worked with some of the biggest names in music. Mary J. Blige. He was Heavy D's original producer. Biggie, Jay, list goes on. He's also an educator as well. DJ, sometimes, tour DJ.
Yeah.
Father, humanitarian. Good dad gang. Clap your hands one time for my brother Tony Dofat, y'all.
What up? What's up? Thanks for having me, man.
Of course, man. Got the yellow on.
Yeah.
Looking like money.
Shirt got wrinkled on the way here.
Good.
We didn't drive in, we took an Uber.
Okay. So, Tony Dofat. Tony Dofat's in the building, legendary producer. Man, there's so much to talk about. You have worked with some of the biggest names in music. Everybody's got their own personality, style, how they like to work in the studio.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a little bit of how you got started on your initial grind to be a creative.
Oh, man. My initial grind, and believe it or not, for those who are parents out here, it starts when you're their age, when you're this big. That's how I developed my sound. That's how I loved soul music. That's how I knew what soul music was. My mother is from the South. And, you know, we know soul music originated from the South, a combination of jazz, gospel, blues. And my father I'm mixed, and a lot of people don't realize it or don't know, and they don't understand what I'm mixed with. So this is probably the first time I'm saying this publicly, but I'm half black and Chinese. My father is Chinese, yeah. So my last name is my real name, Dofat. And people always ask, yo, what's your real name? Especially at labels when I started getting my checks. They were like, what's your real name when they book flights? I'm like, that's my real name, Dofat. They said, oh, you sound like a producer.
That's a good thing, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a fun fact right there. But so my mother played James Brown. She played Al Green. She played everything. What I remember is the sound and the color of the vinyl. Stax Records was yellow with the finger snaps. If you know any DJs in here, the 45s. Polydor was the red, was James Brown, right? Commodores was blue, Motown. So the sound, and there was a correlation between sound and the visuals of the blue. I'm gonna come back on that in a little while when we talk about the creative aspect. So, and all of that music resonated a certain way, and it had a certain frequency that I loved, the bass, the drums. And I just played it, and I started dancing, and I would always play that. And when I first started getting an allowance, the first thing I did was buy a record. And I had no idea all this stuff was gonna play a role in my life, but it was Commodores, it was Brick House by Commodores, yeah. And I played that record until it turned white. It was a 45. Yeah, she's a Brick House. So that's how I developed my original sound. And when I started making music, when I had an opportunity to make music, by default, I started going and digging into soul records. I started digging into soul records, and I started developing bass lines and structures from that era. So that's how I know it's very important when you're their age. My little daughter's right there. It develops at that age. That's why I have them with me everywhere I go. Like my sons that I have, they were with me in the studio everywhere. So influential during those early days. So I developed my sound then there, and when I started making beats, I grew up in Mount Vernon, born and raised in Mount Vernon, New York. That's where Pete Rock is from, Heavy D, Howie Shore, Puff. So Heavy D's older brother was friends with my older brother, or older siblings, and they would bring Heavy to the house, you know, when they would come hang out and visit. So that's how we became friends. And then when Hev, I think he was 16 or 17, he got a record deal, and then he became a superstar overnight. And I wasn't really thinking about music during that time, But I was like, you know, I was in school. I went to college and stuff. I started college, and I was thinking of just being a aerospace engineer, actually. So I started an engineering program. And then just as a hobby, I started to have an interest in making music. I developed an interest in that. I wasn't able to buy equipment, the equipment that I really needed to make commercial records during that time, but I was able to buy a drum machine and a keyboard, and that's all I had. Drum machine and a keyboard. I put things together with just drum machine and keyboard. Those sounds that I put together then were not hot, but they had potential. And my friends were the ones that encouraged me to keep working. And this is why I always tell people when you first start out, be careful who you hang around, because you can hang around some haters or you can hang around people that will give you real advice. And those people were the people that inspired me to keep making music. Because I have to admit, my stuff wasn't hot, but it was decent enough to where you can dance to it, or it sounds somewhat like what we hear on the radio. But it was enough, and just listening to my friends say, yo, yeah, it's good, keep going. That's all I needed. Because I didn't know anyone in the industry. I couldn't really get feedback. So be careful who you hang around when you're just starting out. That's the first thing. And then I hooked up with a partner. I lived in a building, and my partner lived 2 floors above, and he heard my music, and he said, yo, I have some money put away. I want to invest, and I want to build a studio, so let's become partners. And you can do the music. And I was like, great, let's do it. So I did that. We became partners. We built a studio in White Plains Road in the Bronx, 236th Street. And then we signed a bunch of artists. We signed, DMX was my artist. Wow. So I have a project coming out with him from that era too. Case, the singer Case, was my artist as well. So DMX was in the Source magazine. So it was my production that got him in the Source from there. We had 4 artists signed there.
First time I heard that, yeah.
Yeah, we had 4 artists signed. And then that's when I linked up with Puff. I linked up with Puff because my neighbor from Mount Vernon worked at Uptown Records, and he told me, hey, I have this intern, you know Puff, right, from Mount Vernon? I was like, yeah. He was like, yeah, he's at the label, and he's looking for a production partner to produce, to make records. And I was like, yeah, I'm down, let's do it. And he said, yeah, so put together a beat tape on a cassette.
You know what a cassette is? Everybody know what a cassette is? Okay, just checking, making sure, yeah.
Yeah, we old enough.
Okay. So I put together a beat tape, and back then, you gotta remember, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have internet, nothing. So in order to communicate properly, you have to be at the place you designate on time. And you wait for them to show up. You physically wait for a knock on the door or a landline to ring or something. We had no cell phone, so, or we only had beepers. So waited at the studio. My boy Tim comes over. Yeah, Puffs want to come over and work together and work on some stuff and you know, possibly team up. I was like, great. Tell him to come by tomorrow or whatever time I designated. He came by, and we started working. And Puff was like, yeah, you know, we're both the same age, and we started working together. Did our first records together. We had nothing to lose, everything to gain, and we sat down and said, all right, this is what I like. I like your sound. I like your R&B. I love your hip hop. It's unique. And one thing that one thing about production early on, like I said before, your friends will inspire you or encourage you to keep working. A lot of times we don't really know what we're good at. We have to let other people critique us to let us know, and also let us know our value and our worth, and whether we're an asset or a liability, because we don't really know. We're new to the game. So he said, yo, you know, your hip hop is hot. You have a unique sound. I didn't know that, but he said your sound is unique, and you know R&B, you know chord structure. You know you have an ear for R&B, which I do. I took music theory in college, but that didn't really help me. The music theory, I just took it because I knew I was going to get an easy A. Right, honestly. And this is what I tell my students, just, yeah, But I played the trumpet, reading and writing music since I was 9 years old. So that's why, and I did that for 10 years. That's why when I went to college, I said I'm going to take music theory 1 and 2, boost my GPA. So that helped me with R&B a little bit, right? It helped me read, write music, understand chord structure, key, and melody, different types of melody and stuff. So he said, what I want to do is I want to combine both of those sounds, because I didn't really combine them. I did hip hop and I did R&B. And during that time was a real funny era with music where hip hop was bubbling. When we're talking about 1991, hip hop was bubbling. There was something called hip hop and there was something called R&B. Puff said, I want to make music that we like, because we were hip hop heads, and then I want to make music that our parents will like, because my parents hated hip hop. They would call it noise. So he said, what we're going to do is take your sound and we're going to put it together. We're going to take your heavy drums and your hip hop drum sounds with your heavy bass lines, and then we're going to take the chords and the melodies and the sounds that you use for R&B and put it together. And I was like, all right, cool. We have nothing to lose, right? Let's try it. So we did it. First he said, I want something like this. So he invited a DJ over to the studio. A DJ brought vinyl over and he said, sample these drums, or I want something like that. I just, by default, instantly, I just said, I'm going to just sample individual sounds and recreate it. I didn't really think about sampling or interpolation or anything or the laws of it. I just said, I can make, whatever I can make sound better by sampling and doing individual sounds. So the DJ came over, gave me the vinyl, and by the way, that DJ was Funkmaster Flex. Wow. So before he was Flex. So this is crazy. So when I saw Flex, we did an interview together years ago, and I told him the story. He said, yeah, I remember that. I was like, that was me, right? He was like, no. So yeah, and I said, so that record that I sampled the kick, the snare, I used my own hi-hat, and then I just put everything together. And the artist was Mary J. Blige. So when you hear the record, You Remind Me, that was my first joint. So You Remind Me with Greg Nice rapping on it, the video version, right? So the drums, so putting that record together, that was the first song that we put together after the concept of merging hip hop and R&B. And now when you look at it, that changed black music, right? So.
As long as I've known you, I didn't know that story at all, bro.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, because I could ask this guy one question, he can talk for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
I want to play a couple records that he's done, just so everybody knows exactly who we're sitting here with.
So I was good at bass lines. I didn't know. But then I remember when people would hire me and Puff would say, or for a record that I didn't produce, he would say, come to the studio and do a bass line for me. You're dope at bass lines. I was like, really? Okay. So yeah, so I guess that's what I am. I'm good at. So.
I'm gonna take it back to the early days real quick.
What sampler did you use?
Sampler for that was the MPC 60. So it was the old big one. It was hard really to use just the SP1200 because it wouldn't sequence, like the flexibility was not like the MPC, and the sampling time was really limited.
8 seconds, right?
No, it was 10 seconds for the 1200, or 12 seconds. It was very limited, and it was also, I didn't have enough tracks on there. A lot of limitations with the SP1200. So it was strictly hip hop, and if I did have to add loops, we would use SP1200 in conjunction with the Akai S950. So whenever you see the SP, you're gonna see the Akai with any producer, hip hop producer.
Oh, cool. Y'all know who Heavy D is?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's time again. It's definitely time. Check.
I got stories for all of these records.
Say what? It's interlude, y'all. Just an interlude. Interlude, yo. Yeah. It's just an interlude. It's interlude, yo. It's just an interlude. Interlude, yo. Yeah. Double up, yo. Uptown. Official. You ain't know? Yeah. With the deal, I wanna know was this love for real, or could it be lust that I feel? You got it going on and on like a wheel, fly sex appeal, physique extra ill, still sweet
Like, after I heard this record the other day when I put it to Spotify,
Yeah.
I'm like, you literally gave the template for all those 90s R&B records. Like,
Yeah.
sequencing the drums, how the fucking bass line was underneath the snare. Like,
Yeah.
Like this is like 15 songs right here that somebody else made. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Who's the singer on this song?
Kiana Henson. Kiana. I can talk about her because she's doing big things. Yeah.
Waterbed Hev.
Keep my day laced up with fly getting makeup. But you should see her when she wake up. Never could we break up. Shot till you drop, cause the cream don't stop.
Happy ends for Tony Dofat, please.
That record right there. I have so many stories right there from this record. Every record that I make,
Give us one quick.
I have stories. I'm trying to think of the best story. The best story was, Hev wanted to do the album in LA, the whole album. I said, okay, let's do it. We go out to LA for a year, but I just had my second kid, and he wanted me to executive produce the whole thing and produce everything. So I would fly home on the weekends. First weekend, flew back to LA. I came in with the idea on an airplane, right, before I landed. And we had a studio, we had Larry B Studios in West Hollywood locked out just for the whole year, just our room, 24/7, right? I land, I had a driver. As soon as I got in the car, I told the driver, take me to the studio instead of the house. Right to the studio, I laid this track down and then went to the house. I played it for Hev the next day. He liked it, loved, he was like, yeah, it's hot, but let's keep working. Now keep in mind, this was the first session of the entire album. So we recorded the beat way later down, but we just didn't think about this record at all until we finished the entire album. And then we listened to this again, and this became the first single for the album.
That's crazy. I just see you hear that interlude, and that is get funky after that.
That's just a friendly competition. You create competition within yourself, right? We could have gone with that easily, but we tried to make better records. And this is why I always tell everyone when you're making records, if you make something hot, try to make something hotter, right? Always push yourself to the limits, and you don't really need other people once you understand that concept. Because a lot of people sit back and wait for others to push you. I know just starting out, like I told you the story, we need that sometimes, but once you get the wheels rolling, you have to learn how to motivate yourself. And that's what we did, and we did an incredible album. That record went platinum, first single, and then the album is almost platinum. The album's platinum now with streaming, but yeah, that's one story, but there are a lot of stories to that.
Gotta save it for the documentary, though. That one's for the documentary.
I have to shout out the singer Kiana Henson. She is the vocal performance coach for Lil Nas X and a bunch of others too. So she's doing a big thing. But that was the first record she sang on.
Still doing it.
Yeah, Kiana Henson. I mixed that record too. That's my fake DJing scratch.
I like it that much. I ain't gonna lie.
And just even the structure of it. I recycled a lot of stuff, the snare and all of those sounds, that kick. I used that kick probably 20 times on 20 other records. As a producer, once you develop a sound, that's what they pay us for, our sound. So don't let people make you feel bad if they say, oh, it's the same sound snare you use for this other record. No, yeah, I did it purposely because it sounds great on the radio, it sounds great in the club, it's going to sound great on your record too, right? So I'm using the same stuff over and over again. Not melody chords and all of those things, but the things that really stick out with hip hop and R&B, kicks and snares, those frequencies. And then the bass line was 1080, rolling 1080. harp, chords, Roland 1080, and I derived that entire record around the shakers. So when I was on the airplane, I said, whatever I do, I'm going to start with the shakers with dynamics on it. And I did that, and then the rest of the song came together. So it was all about the shakers.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it's great because when I play the record, everyone talks about the shakers. And I'm like, perfect, that's exactly what my goal was.
Yeah. I was telling him too, like, that record right there, or those types of records were like the template for R&B records like 8 to 10 years later. Like if you listen to like the Murder Inc. records and the Ashanti records and that kind of vibe, like that's pretty much like what he started. Like I could probably name 10 songs with very similar melodies and vibes after he did that record. So Tony was definitely he was on a forward motion. Maybe he had a time machine or something.
You know, sometimes I like to be ahead of my times, and it's scary at sometimes because I do records and they don't really catch on until a year later. And I tell a lot of people, if people don't like it, don't be worried because it's just that they're not there yet.
Right.
You know, don't be afraid.
Y'all know who Mary J. Blige is?
Yeah.
Just checking. Y'all know this song?
Oh yeah.
Yo, Pop, yo, check out that situation right there, yo.
Yeah, with some emotions, man.
Yo, honey, right there, yo.
Yo, the
Like soundtrack to life type
She
shit.
gotta go on and on, like, you know, she be trying to act like all of that, though, yo.
So show me what's man, what's up?
Yo, good kid style.
No pressure, big kids in full effect,
Yo,
man.
I'm gonna kick the Willie Bow on, check it,
No
yo.
question.
Hey, yo, what's the
411, hon?
What's the 411?
I got it going
Yo, I
on.
got it going on, huh?
What's the 411, hon?
What's the 411?
I got it going
Hey, yo,
on.
I got it going on.
Will I be booba on this shit? The nigga from last year, Jabos hanging baggy, Tommy Hilfiger top gear. Take no shorts, I'm doing lovely in all sports. Even swing the pole at the hole of my golf course.
I told you I used to work with Vance Wright. He was always around.
Oh yeah.
Doogie?
Yeah. It's not Doogie.
Doug Doogie beat me shook one.
Oh,
Day
wow.
came out.
Oh
That
wow.
was the day I was like, I'm taking music serious.
Oh wow.
Test me. Check it. I'm not keep slipping, bet that ass that I can make it last. Skins turn their head so fast, they end up catching whiplash. If Hun's a monster, I'm Kyle Lewis on the meter dash. It's Grand Pooba, baby, and I'm getting crazy cash. What's the 411? Let me know, hon. What's the 411?
What's the 411, huh?
What's the 411,
I
hon?
got it going on.
Hey, yo, I got it going on,
Hey, yo,
hon.
what's the 411, huh?
What's the
I
411,
said, I
hon?
got it going on.
Hey, yo, I got it going on.
Yeah, nigga, what makes you different than the next nigga? Seen you last week and you couldn't even speak. You try to play like Mr. All of that, but now you wanna come on me with some chit chat. I don't have no time for no wham bam thank you, man. Gas me up, get me drunk and hit the skins and scram. The same old shit
Hit
you
the
pull
skins
last
and
week.
scram.
I'm not having that. No, I'm not having that. You gotta do a lot more, and that's just how it be. I'm Mary Blige, and you just ain't running up in me. I need a man who's looking out with some security. So come correct with some respect, and then we will see. So if you're with it, then drop the 7 digits, and I might just give you a call. If you ain't with it, then don't waste your time at all. So what's the 411, huh?
That's a classic.
That one right there.
That's a classic. So give us a little story behind that, John.
Ooh, okay. Just if you saw the DJ Khaled and Tommy Hilfiger collab they just did, they licensed that record just a month ago. I just did a license for that. Yeah. So I did a license for internet and TikTok, so the commercials on there, and they played actually half of the record. So it was a 2-week campaign. But that record, so I did the beat. Puff heard it and he said, "Yo, let's put this on. Let's get Pooh and Mary to do this record." And I'm confused. And like one thing about Puff is that he come up with ideas, and I always, after the first few successful records, I always just followed the lead after that. So I was like, all right, cool, let's do it. Pooh went in there, wrote the record. He did his verse, wrote Mary's part. Mary went and she was in the lounge, just going over it a few times. She went in the booth and knocked it out like in 2 takes, whole thing. She's like a straight rapper, really. We did that and mixed it all in the same night at the Hip Factory on 42nd Street. Tony Maserati, big engineer right now, super engineer. He mixed that, and that was our primary engineer during the Uptown days. Yeah, and let me see what else. Combination of course, Ohio Players, which I developed from my mother. Remember I told you about being, so Ohio Players was another band that she would play, and I just revisited to everything that I knew. The bass line was there, bass-driven record, not a lot of drums, and it was really it's around the bass, and then I have other samples and guitar licks and stuff like that. So if you listen to it, you can hear how the style of music that my style that I explained and broke down. You can hear that it's hip hop and R&B, musical, but in key. You know, I'm real particular about that, being in pitch and in key. And if I'm in 440 hertz, the keyboard, I'll make sure the sample is too. Because during that time in early hip hop, when we were sampling, a lot of things were out of tune. And a lot of producers didn't really have the ear to tune certain things, but I was really particular about that with my hip hop.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Another thing too, if you're a real hip hop head, Grand Puba, who's a legend in the game, he used to wear Tommy Hilfiger. That was his thing. So for him to be brought back and been on the 4-on-1 record and then in the sync licensing situation, like it's like a full 360 of real hip hop understanding. So I really applauded Hilfiger when they did that because they really dipped back into the hip hop vibe. So
yeah, and it was a 2-week campaign. It was dope, and they paid a lot of money for it. And I was like, damn. For the license. Yeah. They paid a lot, and I was like, I didn't know that was that much money on the TikTok campaign. I was like, that's why those publishers are going crazy over there, right? Yeah, right. I can't tell you the number. I mean, I could.
All right, y'all know who Jay-Z is.
Word. I don't know who. Come on, this is my shit right here. This is my.
What's that?
Gangsta, rapping gangsta?
No, I did that. No. I did.
You didn't do that one?
No.
Oh, okay.
I did the tour.
I'll tell you, y'all know the website Genius? You got all like the lyrics and credits and everything. They're just slipping. Big time.
Yeah. So what happened? I did the tour. So I'm a musical director too.
Okay.
Right. So yeah. So when we did the tour, I did the tour. I did the Snoop and Puff tour, worldwide tour, and then after that, American Gangster was coming out, and then he wanted the same sound with the band and everything. Because one thing, one thing about hip hop, when we perform live, you never really see hip hop with bands because it never sounds like the record. So I achieved that with the Puff tour because Puff said, I want to use a band on this tour, but Dofat, I want you to make it sound like the record. So what I had to do was actually go in and create stems and create a full multi-track. So now I'm touring with the band, but I'm live in the studio. So I have the full session. I would take the 2-inch reels and dump those masters and recreate the full master, and then I would rehearse with the band and drop out elements and keep those prominent elements that are in the records, those key elements, I would keep those in there and have the band replay something. So now, so when you see certain shows, it sounds like a live version of the record, right? It doesn't sound like that.
444 as well, yeah.
So then that's what Jay-Z wanted. And then I gave him the same sound with the tour. And it was intricate. I think everybody's doing it now. I think it's pretty common now. But that was really, like, we have a full session. So now if we have a 45-minute show, that's probably like 15 songs. So we have 15 sessions. So you got to think about my Pro Tools rig was a beast, right? And I would always tour with a tech. So he would defrag and clean everything out before every show, and it would run live, like the whole thing. So yeah,
What's the 50 record you said? What's that the?
Oh, the original Biggie, Realest Niggas. Yeah, the Realest Niggas are Biggie at 50. So that story with the...
Biggie and 50?
Yeah, so, all right, so let me just tell you a little bit about that record.
Can I play it first?
Yeah, but I did the original one, the original. So let me see.
From Bad Boys?
Yeah, that's considered the remix, but that's the original. So how it worked was the original that I did, they took it and redid it, but it's my record. So I'm not production-wise though.
All right, so
It's
give me a
my
record aside
publishing.
from the What's Beef joint.
Yeah.
The other record.
That's on the album. I have a record on that album.
You have a record on this album?
Yeah.
Bad Boys?
Yeah, I have, what's that song on there? On the Bad Boy album, yeah. What size that one?
What, was it 4?
No,
or
it's,
2?
is it called Y? Not Y.
Like what Bad Boys? 1, 2, 3?
Bad Boys 2, the soundtrack, Bad Boys 2. Yeah, the one that the realest niggas is on. I have a song on there. The Making the Band is on there, actually. Bad Boys.
Go back to this one.
Yeah, go back to the album. Yeah, right there. That album. Bad Boys 2 soundtrack. Is that the album?
Oh, here we go. Okay, yeah. Which one is it?
Let me see. Go down some more. Why?
Right.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. So that's the Making the Band. A lot of people should know about that one because it's.
So y'all know Making the Band show.
But we could talk about that the realest niggas one because they should know.
All right. So the joint with 50
50
and
Cent, yeah.
Biggie.
So that song right there. I control and own 50% of that record, publishing on that song, and actually I didn't produce that version that you hear now is not the original. I produced the original and own the original, and what they did was they used part of that to make the new version, right? Yeah. So
Still get paid off the new one.
yeah, no, it's all, one composition, still one composition. That's why it's important to own your records and own your publishing and retain your rights. So in that one record, when ringtones were out a long time ago, that record came out and that was the biggest grossing record in my catalog. And it was something that I did. That was one of Biggie's first records that we did. As soon as Puff signed him, we went into the studio and I did that record, Realest Niggas. And then I don't know how 50 got it, but he got it and did a version to it. So that's the version that you guys hear. But
Is that after he died already that he got on there?
I'm trying to think, what year did he do that record? Yeah, no. It was after he died. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's on the Bad Boy 2 soundtrack.
Yeah, it was after.
Yeah.
It was afterwards. But I did a few songs on there, and then that song was used a few times, and we remade it again for another one of Biggie albums. But I did that one, and I did Can I Get With Ya? The originals. So I was with Biggie early on in his career, like when as soon as he walked through the door, and we were working. And then that was when the split of Puff happened with Andre Harrell, and he left Uptown Records. And yeah. So that's that record. But on that same soundtrack, I also produced. It's probably becoming popular again right now, but everyone probably is familiar with Making the Band on MTV, and everybody probably knows Dylan though. The Dylan. Yeah, from Chappelle. Okay. So. Yeah, they probably know that more than the actual shows. Yeah, so it originated from a show.
Go get me cheesecake conversation.
Yeah, so that originated from the show, and I have another song on that same album with that band. That's Bad Boys 2. But you're familiar with Bad Boys, right? Yeah. Bad Boys 1 and 2. So this is from
today.
Yeah. Wait, it comes out today?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's why you're doing all the promo. Yeah, I gotta see it.
All right, so this one's called Why.
Why, yeah, this one is called Why. I did this one live on TV, actually, on MTV.
And I saw an angel come down from heaven.
I'm doing all the instruments.
The bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand. And laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent.
You did
which
What's
is the
Beef
devil,
though, right?
And Satan, and bound them 1,000 years.
What's Beef?
I mixed it.
You mixed it?
Engineered it.
What other record you want me to play?
I got it.
I'm a soldier type, keep grip on still like Conan. Money bulging out my pockets, I peel with both hands. International dope man, known as a D-boy. If you need it, then you know you can call him the decoy. Me, all I do is move across the corner. Paper chasing cause I'm trying to stack dough like Homer. Watch me. I'm trying to keep my head on tight. All the blockers, nigga, thriller wanna ride at night. Block watches, calling coppers, so my mind ain't right. The devil with me, but the young boy acknowledge strength. I did a lot of riding in my time, and God bless me still. I look out for the one that knocks. So why the devil keep on messing with me? Why he knocking at my door?
Oh, you should play that single, the Making the Band single, Bad Boy This, Bad Boy That first. Play Bad Boy This, Bad Boy That, and then I got other records, but I want, since we on Making the Band stuff.
Yeah, I usually do like 5, so that way it gets more questions.
All right.
Like such your valuation folk. When you a thug, you about to get your rights revoked. I'm from the dirty, we don't even know the prices. So I'm a star, look in the sky. You need a microscope. I'm where you're headed the game. Thugging running my veins, my pockets chubby, so I went and got a fifth in my name. It's just me, him, and my son in the range. A young hitter with the filthy slang. I hop out like we jacking them.
Give it up for Tony.
That one. Oh, thanks. Yeah. So that record right there, that was on MTV. You can go to YouTube and watch the older episodes now, but I did that one live. I made it from scratch, and it ended up being a single for this project. But the bass line was just a bass lick, and I just played it. It was a sample. It was just a single note. But every sound that you hear there was, you got to remember, nothing was from a sound kit. Our sound kits we make out on our own. So every record that I produce, every record that's in my catalog on Spotify, yeah, those are all my sounds, right? So that was and all sampled from vinyl. That clap was an Al Green clap. You gotta edit that because I'm not trying to get. But it was only a clap, right? But now I'm incriminating myself by saying I actually sampled it. They have to prove it. But yeah.
Say allegedly.
Yeah.
We'll do a little screen over that.
Allegedly. So here is nice and dry. I didn't add reverb and just turn it up. So that record is from there, and I learned that. I remember that from when I was 4 or 5 years old, right? So I'm using that record.
And this next one is the single, correct? The one
Yeah.
the record that did?
Yeah, this is the single. This is platinum single right here.
Yeah, this is the band's original single when they first got signed to Bad Boy. It's the single, Bad Boy This, Bad Boy That.
This is all keyboard stuff too. Keyboard, everything, all the keyboards that I did was all live. I didn't sequence anything. This one I sequenced, but it's all keyboard, no samples in this. And I based this record creatively around the claps. So after I did the claps, then I did the kick drum, and then I did the accordion. So there's an accordion in the record, kick drum, claps, and then a flute occasionally. So real simple.
Bad boy, baby, we the last standing. Check the record, check the score. The band, the next generation of bad motherfuckers. Come on.
I'm back and I'm hitting them hard. Tisco sag. I don't need no push and bra. Bitch, you mad? Bab's got a brand new car. Drop top in the hood. I'm the ghetto superstar. Breathe. Pop bottles and roll up weed. Back strong on bitches like I'm Hercules. You got a problem? Come see the girl. I saw them. Big belly bitches, we starve them. Niggas in the hole, we roll. Whenever they floating, better suck in your chain, bitch. You keep on walking.
Babs was so nice, man.
Yeah.
Right? Babs was fire back in the day.
I'm a changed man since I made the band. Nobody gave a damn, no one gave a hand. That's what made man made the band. Wave your hands.
Yeah.
In the watch, I think I'm about to blaze the band. Elegant Ness, you know I'm here to save the land. Don't try to lie, see the liquors with Major Ram. Go somewhere and be a maintenance man, a janitor. Dog, don't blame me, blame your manager. Keep your hands on my pockets, nigga. Franchise like I play for the Rockets, nigga. Should be small, 2 pockets, nigga. Ready to die, all eyes on the project, nigga. You spot? I put something in your gossips, niggas. I can't help it, I'm a violent, nigga.
All I hear is bad boy this and bad boy that. That's bad boy beat you down with style, nigga. Here we go, hopping out the G5 wagon, G-coded,
Young
Weez,
chop,
Bows,
chop.
and T-swagging. Running game on your bitch, your boy's a pep. I need a bitch with no type of common sense. That about it. If you got it, then throw it up. Got the fire and you ready to light it, to tote it up. Now that's gangsta. Don't make me spanking you. Running that water, now your life is in danger. Ride with the underworld that keep bangers. Niggas that be out that frown and beef bringers. Picture a nigga try to carry me. It won't happen, I won't let you niggas worry me. I'ma stay thugged out till they bury me. When they do, I can't wait to see Barry B. All I hear is bad boy this and bad boy that. Bad boy beat down with the face on family love. These dudes ain't gonna kill nothing. I'm afraid you want them dead, put some bullets in his coffin.
What was this kid's name again?
Frederick. Fred.
And you bring your cousin, that homeboy, that's your man. Said I got it all playing Diddy, follow the game. I'm bad, but not a boy, I got a part of his name. Come on, I see you slipping and it's over the chain. Your head harder than wood, and I'm sawing your brain. A dawn, I mean what I say and I say what I mean. I eat shit and sleep, yeah, I lay with them things. Bad boy, when universal, so don't play with the team. Don't play with us. Bad boy, so don't play with the team. Bad boy, baby. Bad boy, so don't play with the team. Bad boy, so don't play with the team.
There's a lot going into this, man.
Man.
That's hard.
So what was it like working with like so many personalities? Like you hear Babs, you hear Young Chopper, you hear Ness. They're all from different areas. How do you create a sound around that without losing who you are and what your sound is?
That was difficult. That was a difficult project for many reasons, and I actually tried to quit it. But you know, I was talked back into it really quick. I quit for about 5 minutes. And I actually, no, because it was a reality show. One of the first reality shows back then. It was a black reality show on MTV, Making the Band, rappers, 6.
I watched to see you on there.
Yeah. I did season 2, season 3. And the first season was auditions, right? Then they get signed to Bad Boy after we pick everyone, then they get into the studio with me. And that was a full season 2, recording the album and making the album. So I was mic'd up and recorded 16, 18 hours a day. And it was difficult. And trying to make an album like in real time, we had to do it in real time. How reality shows work is 1 week is one full week is an episode. So there were 13 episodes. So I had to do it in full time. So I had to creatively come up with hot records, not just for the show, but records that we're going to put out on Bad Boy, right? So that pressure that I had during that time was crazy. I couldn't even drive. I had a driver. I had a driver and security. So he was driver and security. And I lived in Long Island. So it would take an hour each way, come to the brownstone or the set where they lived. Because I didn't stay in the house with them. I stayed in my house. And I would create either at my house when I wake up or when I get home from the studio, or I would create it on the set because I had my studio on the set as well.
No time to live.
Yeah, exactly. So I did that for the show. So I was making all of these beats I made live on TV, right? So in the first record that he just played, I made that live. I'm actually playing the keyboards. They used part of that on one of the episodes, but this one they show me mixing this record. But it was very difficult because I had those restrictions, I had that pressure on me, and then I'm dealing with all of these new artists that had never really been in the studio before. You gotta remember, it's auditions, we don't listen to demos, and they really didn't have demos. They would come perform, they would have personalities, and we would pick them, and then they would get into the studio with me, and then they would sign the Bad Boy, and they would put an album out. So I experienced a lot of the personality clashes. As a producer, you are the overseer, you are in control of the entire session or project. So if there are issues in there, or fires, you have to put them out, you have to extinguish them. You have to have great interpersonal skills because you have to be the leader of that. You have to allow or make people get along or work together just for the sole purpose of creating a record, right? So whatever I had to do during that time, I had to do it. But at the end of the day, we dropped the album, right? And it sold 580,000 physical units in 1 week. 1 week. Yeah.
That don't happen anymore. That don't happen anymore.
583, 586, I think. So yeah, that was so that was when I really didn't regret it. But during the entire time, I got frustrated. So I understand the personalities, how they work when you have a camera and a mic on all day, and you don't really have time, or you don't have your space anymore, privacy. So I was like, I can't do it. It was too much stuff dealing with them recording. They're fighting in the house. You know, just like that. That's what it was. They were fighting. Then
Let me tell you something. If you watch the YouTube clips of when Puff said,
"We closing the studio,"
go get me cheesecake. When he said, "I need y'all to walk to fucking Junior's in Brooklyn and get me cheesecake."
Yeah.
The look on this guy's face when Puff said it, he's literally like. I remember like it was yesterday.
That is not my job.
Yeah.
He was just like, okay. I'm gonna stay here and make music.
It was crazy. All of that stuff. And
What do you think you've learned most about those challenges that have helped you with any maybe future challenges you had, or working with other artists? How did that one experience help you out?
that one in particular helped me work with 5-6 different personalities at once, because I never really had to do that. It was just a single artist. Because I never really worked with many groups. I probably worked with 3 or 4 groups out of all of those records I produced. And that one in particular was different because I had to make the beat, and then they had to write right in front of me, and then they would share their stuff, and we would try to put together a full composition, including singing too, because we had a singer in the group, and we had 2 females in the group. So we had a female rapper and a female vocalist, singer. So putting all of that stuff together and trying to make music that's that can be played on a broad spectrum of formats or channels. Something for the masses, something hip hop, R&B. It kind of puts you in like a little small area, right? And so the only thing that I can say as far as advice for that is you have to make a lot of records. You have to make a lot, because we have a plan before we sit down behind that keyboard, but most times that plan we have, or that vision, it may not come to fruition because creatively we're just taking somewhere else. Yeah. Not saying that when we're taking somewhere else that record is garbage. It's probably good, but it most likely probably won't fit them. What we have to do, we have to make another one. So there's a rule: you have to make at least 10 tracks to place one, at least, and you have to be really high up in the game in order to be at that level. So if someone's trying to buy, or you trying to place one beat, you have to bring about 20 to 30 beats, really. So for this particular album, I made probably 80 beats just for this album. Because you got to think about it, I'm working with the hardest man to please in the entertainment industry during that time, right? The biggest mogul in the industry during that time. And I would play beats, I would play 10 at a time. He'd be like, no.
Yeah, I was that like that reaction. After you just play some hard shit, and you think it's like, oh yeah, he gonna fuck with this for sure. This.
Yeah, that never happens. It's always a beat that you want to throw away, and he's like, yo, that's it. Yeah. It's always that beat. Yeah. So that beat right there, I did it, and I just felt special about it, and that's one of the first beats all of us agreed on. And I tried to burn it to a CD, and I couldn't because my CD player broke, so I had to put it on cassette. And I brought it to the studio on cassette, and I said, yo, Puff, you got to hear this beat. He said, all right. He had a cassette player. I don't know, for some reason he had one. And I played it, and he was like, yeah, that's it, though. Let's do it. And we recorded it and didn't know that was gonna be single. We recorded it, and there are a lot of things that are not, say, politically correct when we talk about commercial music. There's no hook on that record, but there are no rules, right? Yeah. There was no hook on Benjamins. So we modeled that, all about the Benjamins. There's no chorus when you think about it. Now they added it's all about the Benjamins, baby, right? But that was after the fact. But this record didn't have a hook either, and it was a #1 record for a long time. So you don't always have to follow rules. Like, we need a chorus 8 bars. You know, you could. If I do a chorus, I want 7 bars, right? Let me make it 7 bars, or 9. So there are no real rules to anything, and I like bringing that record up too when I talk about there are no rules to making records. It's art, right?
Let's talk a little bit about longevity. First of all, you said you never knew this was actually going to be something you wanted to go into, music. Yeah. I mean, you always loved music.
Yeah.
But what's some of the keys, or just some of the gems that you could tell these guys about longevity and why starting at that point with a heavy D
Yeah.
and a DMX to getting to this point now, and how you kind of stayed motivated and even relevant in the game.
Yeah, well, it's about having a passion for what you're trying to pursue, because there is no, you can't really determine when you're going to get money, for one. You can't determine when you're going to get recognition or anything. So what's your motivating factor? You can answer that. It's your passion, right? It's like, I equate this often when I do master classes. I equate having your passion for music was like a relationship. Like, you know, whether you're with a guy or a girl and you're in a relationship, and let's say that person in your relationship will do something bad to you, somebody will tell you to leave them. You should leave them, whatever. But most times you don't, because your passion, you love them, and things like that. So those type of pressures you get with music or any other art, what's going to keep you there, right? And if you don't have the passion, you're going to go at the first break. At the first break, any chance given, you're going to make an excuse to cop out and leave, right? So you have to have the passion, or don't pursue anything, right? Don't pursue anything unless you are passionate about it. And if you're passionate about it, you won't think about money as much, and then that's how you become super successful. And I did it for the passion. I did it because I loved it. My first check wasn't a lot. It was a check, but that was the threshold or the turning point to take or transform my hobby into a career. Even though it wasn't a lot of money, I'll tell you, it was $3,500. And I had to split that Mary J. Blige check with Puff. So we split that down the middle. And after that, I said, wow, this is fun. I love doing this. I can make money. Let's make more records. And Puff was like, yeah, we're gonna make more. We're gonna make more. And then everyone's blowing up the phones. Who did these records? Who did this record? It's hot. This sound is dope. They were like, yo, it's Puff and Dofat. And that's how, you know, our career just took off. And then everyone just kept calling, and we just kept producing, kept doing remixes. What was called the remix then, it was kind of that normal, but that's black music today. It's hip hop and R&B. Everything is just pretty much black music today. But yeah, it's just having passion for it, and that will give you, that will allow you to, that should be your motivating factor. But now at the same time, you have to get what you deserve, and you have to get your value and what you're worth too. And that's where the biggest problem lies, I think, with new artists or new talent, is not understanding your value or your worth. And if someone today wanted to sign you, right? We have a lot of producers and writers in here, right? Right? Someone were to sign you, say, to a publishing deal, and they would say, oh, I want to sign you for 2 years and I have $100,000. Who's going to jump? Do you know what you're worth, right?
What do you signing?
Yeah, so do you know? Is that good money or not good money? So how do you figure that out? So these are all things that I had to go through. What am I worth? Because as soon as you get a record on the charts, everyone's going to call you. But what do you take, and so what I said was, I have a threshold, and this is funny. I have a threshold, and I always say $1 million with everything. Even though $1 million is not really like a lot of money, but you say $1 million at everything. So we just started, it was 1992, and I got an offer from EMI Publishing, and they asked what did I want, and I just said, take a shot in the dark, I don't know, $1 million. And they said, we'll get back to you, right? I went to Warner Chappell, they asked the same question, what do you want? $1 million. They said, what about 750? I was like, okay, so I'm
not too far.
I'm not far. Let me all right. So
tell you what, 900.
So sometimes you have to just play it by ear, but knowing your value, because someone that doesn't know their value could get offered $50,000 and would be like, that's a lot of money to me, right? So
you got artists out here signing deals for like 1,500. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's crazy out here.
Understanding your value.
Wild West.
But also now there's an equal exchange type of thing happening too, and you got to think about where you are. Sometimes you have to give up your rights or something in order to get to a certain position too at the same time. Yeah, so you know, like my first beat was 3,500, but what I would have done it for free, right? Because it's like I want people to hear my work, you know, and I think that's more valuable than actually the $3,500. But I got something out of it. Yeah. So
Y'all get up for Tony Dofat, man.